Chenganur unit of the Vishwa Hindu Parishad, the VHP, has claimed that 30 Christians have been converted to Hinduism at a ceremony held on Sunday. The VHP claims the ceremony marks the launch of the Ghar Wapsi program of the organization in Kerala. The VHP also said that the families have not been given any financial assurance or any other inducement. The families are not traceable. In fact, the local VHP organizers said that they had been moved to another location.
ഭരണഘടനയും നിയമവ്യവസ്ഥയും അനുസരിച്ച് മാത്രം ആർക്കും പ്രവർത്തിക്കാൻ സാധ്യമാവുകയുള്ളൂ. ഏതായാലും അത്തരം നടപടികൾ ലംഘിക്കപ്പെട്ടിട്ടുണ്ടോ എന്നുള്ളത് പരിശോധിക്കും. വിശദമായ അന്വേഷണം നടക്കുന്നുണ്ട്.
Chenganur unit of the Vishwa Hindu Parishad in Alappuzha has claimed, they themselves claimed that to have converted 30 Christians belonging to 8 families to Hinduism at a ceremony. Everybody has the freedom to choose their own religion according to their faith. Converting people is creating tension among the people, and it will disturb the communal harmony of the country.
Joining me now from Kochi is Father Paul Telekut, spokesperson of the Syro Malabar Church there in Kochi. Also Rohini Swami, our deputy editor, joining me live from Bengaluru. Father Paul Telekut, were you surprised by the Ghar Wapsi program and the reconversions which are organized in Alappuzha district of Kerala yesterday? Do you expect more such rituals, ceremonies like these to be organized by the VHP?
Definitely, I am surprised. Not only surprised, I am anguished. The Christian community is also in a feared situation. It is not only in Kerala, but look, that is happening all over India. It has happened in the Bastar district of Chhattisgarh. It has happened in Gujarat. It has happened in UP. Everywhere. It is a concerted effort from the part of the BJP as well as Sangh Parivar. It is in a way against the Article 25 of the Constitution.
Father Paul, what would the church really do if more such ceremonies are organized by the VHP? Because they have said that yesterday was the inauguration of the Ghar Wapsi program in Kerala. What would the church do if more such ceremonies are organized in Kerala?
Our stand is, what are we going to do? You see, we cannot do anything against these powerful people who come with the might of the government. And after all, it is the will of the people which is also denied. It is a forceful conversion. When we all stand against forceful, the constitution itself is against forceful conversion. But we know there is a right to practice, to profess and to propagate the religion. That is an individual right. Every citizen has a right, and that right does not mean to convert anybody. This has been the accusation of the BJP and the Sangh Parivar against the Christian community every time. But they are also doing the same thing now. It is surprising. It is not really surprising when BJP came to power. They are starting to execute their own programs which divide the community in a communal basis. Of course, they do that for the power game of politics, but it is going to divide. It is going to create dangerous situations in our community and in our country.
Right. Rohini, you heard there Father Paul accusing the BJP and the different right-wing organizations of trying to divide society. Now, what are the reactions coming in from the right-wing organizations to what has happened to this Ghar Wapsi program being inaugurated in Kerala?
While the VHP unit of Chenganur have actually distributed this video, which they call the reconversion into the Ghar Wapsi program, the rest of the BJP unit and the VHP units we have seen across the country, especially the BJP unit in Kerala, has distanced themselves from this. Also, while they were talking about this Ghar Wapsi program and this inauguration which took place in Alappuzha, they said there will be around 300 more such people who will be part of this program on December 25th, which is Christmas Day. Now, what we get to know from our sources that the BJP has come down heavily and have told them that this kind of things cannot be done, and if it has to be done, then the VHP cannot go out in the open and make such claims. The fact remains that people can convert only if they want to. Now, what is being looked into, whether they were forced to convert or these people stepped forward to the VHP and said they wanted to be converted.
Right. Father Paul, do you also see this as some way of a link to the state assembly elections which are due in Kerala in another 15 to 16 months, that this sensitive issue of conversions is actually being hyped up by organizations like the VHP there in Kerala?
Of course, that is meant to create some sort of vote bank to consolidate the power of the Hindus. I believe that the Hindus in Kerala are well aware of this thing. They are a very secular people. They do understand. They are always a welcoming community. They have a culture of own inclusiveness. Whether it is Hindu, whether it is Muslim, it was the Christians, it's all living in a brotherly and a very amicable situation in Kerala. I think the BJP and the Sangha Parivar is trying to fish out of some sort of communal troubles in India, especially in Kerala, in order to get into power so that they may get an assembly seat or a parliament seat for the coming elections.
Right. Father Paul Telekut and Rohini Swami, this is definitely an extremely contentious issue, and this is definitely not the last that we have heard on it. Thanks a lot for joining us on Up South. News now from Tamil Nadu. Yesterday, former Union Minister and actor Napoleon joined the BJP when the BJP President Amit Shah was in Chennai, and he had claimed that he had done so with his leader Aragiri's blessings. But today, Aragiri told Headlines Today's Srisha Reddy that he did not endorse the move. In fact, he told Srisha Reddy, and I quote, "I am not an agent or a broker to send people to different parties, and I deny what Napoleon has said, and I never knew his plans." Joining me now from Chennai, senior journalist R. Mani. Mr. Mani, this makes it very interesting. Napoleon says that he had Aragiri's blessings. Aragiri denies anything of the sort. This makes one's eyebrows go up. What really do you think is actually going on?
Yes, yesterday Napoleon, while talking to media in the presence of BJP President Amit Shah, has said that he has the blessings of his mentor M.K. Alagiri. Alagiri took active plunge in politics after the 2007 Dinakaran newspaper survey, in which it had predicted that Stalin was the natural heir of the party. In the following violence in Madurai, Dinakaran newspaper office was torched and 3 of its employees were killed. Ever since, Napoleon is one of the very few Alagiri loyalists. In fact, he owed his presence in the Union cabinet to Alagiri. So I think what Alagiri today said and what Napoleon was saying yesterday are nothing but calculated ploy by the Alagiri camp to create confusion among the BJP cadres and its second rank leadership.
Right. Mr. Mani, do you see the BJP emerging as some kind of a favored destination for all those leaders who do not find any space in any of the different Dravidian parties in Tamil Nadu?
Yes, the BJP is definitely emerging as a favored political destination for few politicians in the state. You can't have exodus from ADMK. From DMK, yes, it's possible. Those who are sidelined by Stalin and those who are not able to bag plum party posts in the ongoing party's organizational elections are definitely a prey for the BJP. But fortunately or unfortunately, the problem is since the BJP does not have a charming state level leadership, it is not able to go beyond a point to fulfill its mission. So I think if the BJP national leadership concentrates on this particular aspect, I can say that they can still bring out a lot of, if not lot of, a sizable number of second rank leadership from the BJP or from few other political parties also.
Right. Mr. Mani, thanks a lot for joining us with that perspective from Chennai. Now, disturbing news from Palakkad district in Kerala, where the Forest Range office of the Silent Valley area was attacked by suspected Maoists. The office was ransacked and a jeep was also set on fire. The local police have confirmed that pamphlets that said that they are going to begin an armed revolution were found in the premises, actually pointing the needle of suspicion at the Maoists. But Kerala Home Minister Ramesh Chennithala tried to play it safe and said it was not yet confirmed whether Maoists were actually behind the attack. But the modus operandi, the police sources say, does confirm that there could possibly be a Maoist hand.
ഏതായാലും വളരെ ഗൗരവത്തോടെയാണ് ഈ സംഭവത്തെ നമ്മൾ കാണുന്നത്. ഇതാര് ചെയ്തു, എന്തിനു വേണ്ടി ചെയ്തു, ഇതിൻ്റെ പിന്നിൽ മാവോയിസ്റ്റിൻ്റെ കരങ്ങളുണ്ടോ എന്നുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങളെല്ലാം പോലീസ് പരിശോധിച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണ്. മാവോയിസ്റ്റ് അക്രമമായി ഇപ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് സ്ഥിരീകരിക്കാൻ കഴിയില്ല.
Nearly 6 years ago, on the 7th of January 2009, Satyam Computers chief Ramalinga Raju shocked the country with his confession, where he said that he had actually cooked up the company's books, actually cheating the investors and shareholders at large. Tomorrow, a special CBI court will actually pronounce the verdict in this very high-profile case of corporate fraud. In fact, his brother is also one of the accused, and the focus will be on what view the court actually takes on Raju, who has incidentally gone back on that confession of the 7th of January. Joining me now is Mr. Venkat Changavalli, who had worked closely with Ramalinga Raju as the head of EMRI, the Emergency Management and Research Institute. Mr. Venkat Changavalli, thanks a lot for joining us on Up South. After nearly 6 years, it's verdict time for Ramalinga Raju. It has been the story of a fall of a corporate icon, a corporate idol. Is that the way you also see it?
Yeah, I worked with him since 2005. I know him for the last 6 years. I worked with him closely for 4 years till he confessed and went to jail. The face what I have seen is different from what he confessed. The face what I have seen in EMRI as a chairman of EMRI those 4 years, very humble man, very innovative man, very ground to earth. There was a keen desire and passion to do something for the poor people. This is what I have seen him those 4 years. He was my guard till he declared the confession. He was one of the best bosses I worked, and I got an opportunity to start EMRI, expanded to 12 states in EMRI. We were able to save 520,000 lives, conducted 140,000 deliveries in ambulances. In those 6 years I was in EMRI. Thanks to him for the thought of starting EMRI and bringing me as CEO, I wouldn't have got this opportunity of saving lives but for Raju.
Mr. Venkat, you paint a very rosy picture of Ramalinga Raju, obviously based on your impressions of working closely with him. But the corporate world and the public at large looks at him as someone who committed a fraud. Irrespective of the court verdict tomorrow, do you think that's the way the corporate world and the public at large will look at Ramalinga Raju?
See, I cannot comment on what people have damned him. I have respect for the face what he showed me. That is that innovative mind, that is that selflessness, that is that humbleness. Now what he did, what he confessed is something of a horrible nature. If that is what is established, since he himself confessed, naturally it doesn't gel into my values. I would not like to meet him again and work for him because it will be not be reflecting and gelling with my values.
Right, Mr. Venkat Changavalli, the verdict we will be awaiting with bated breath tomorrow. That's going to be delivered by a special CBI court here in Hyderabad. Thanks a lot for joining us on Up South. Now the story from Chennai, which is actually disturbing a lot of people. Chain snatching. On Friday, a woman was threatened at knife point in Chennai and robbed of her gold jewelry. This happened near her house in MCN Nagar in the city. Now mobile footage of that particular incident has emerged, and in the mobile footage you can see clearly that the chain snatcher is threatening the lady using a big knife, and she's a school teacher. He rammed into her bike and escaped with his accomplice on a bike. The victim was reluctant to approach the police in fear of the robber, and in fact residents of the area were the ones who alerted the police control room. In fact, my colleague Shisha Reddy joins me live from Mylapore in Chennai. Shisha, you were telling me that the lady is so scared that she did not even want to speak to you because she fears that the chain snatcher may come back to attack if she actually goes out to the public and complains about him. What are the reactions you are getting to this extremely shocking incident which has been caught on tape?
Well, Sudhir, the woman who was, robbed did not even speak to the media. And, firstly, she didn't even file a complaint because she was so scared that, the person will come and attack her. But yes, people in Chennai do see this as a very shocking incident because, anything can happen to anybody in this place because it happened in a broad daylight. I have a teacher with me, who who goes to college, she wears gold jewelry. Do you feel safe, when you wear this gold jewelry because you go out for a walk, you go out to a college to teach, you have to wear?
No, absolutely not. We don't feel safe absolutely when we wear gold jewelries or even gold coverings, because it looks like gold, and it's so inviting for others to snatch it. And the wondering thing is that even if men wear gold, men are never snatched, men are never robbed.
Women are vulnerable. So do you also share a similar emotion that do you wear gold jewelry when you go out, and are you scared if at all you go out?
See, basically I have not come across any such situation. Okay, but I do know that women are not safe here, especially in Chennai, because I come across a lot of news in the newspapers and news channels. So seeing all that, my parents, they really don't allow me to wear even roll gold jewelries. I am not allowed to wear any type of jewelry that's yellow metal. I'm really not allowed to wear, because they'll be like, see, if you're going to wear such metal, such colored jewelries, again, people are going to think that I'm wearing a gold jewelry, and they're going to come and snatch, try to snatch it. End of the day, I'm going to get injured. So they care more for my, exactly.
So it's a message that's sending across, Sudhir, that, people are of course scared. They do, carry these kind of dupattas with them, so that, they can wrap it around so that they're not being attacked by these people. But what's more shocking is that it happened in the broad daylight and nobody came to rescue this woman. And that is one of the reasons that, why people are, so panicky about these kind of incidents that have been happening, which is on rise as far as Chennai is concerned. Sudhir?
Right. Shisha Reddy, thanks a lot, and thanks also to your guests for joining us there from Chennai. Time for a break on Up South. After the break, we will look at schools, whether they are actually ready and prepared for a Peshawar type attack, especially after the standard operating procedures which have been given out by the Ministry of Home Affairs. Take a detailed look at the reality check at schools in South India on the Up South tomorrow's bulletin. But meanwhile, we leave you with these visuals from Lamba Singhi in Visakhapatnam district of Andhra Pradesh, which was extremely cold at 0 degrees on Sunday. In fact, it's located at a height of above 1,000 meters in the hills of Eastern Ghats. And Lamba Singhi is interestingly referred to as Andhra's Kashmir.